Okay, here we go. We are live. I am recording. For all the new listeners, thank you for coming in. At the beginning of each episode, I do something called the playlist shuffle, where I go to my playlist or my songs and hit shuffle. Whatever comes up, comes up. It's very revealing and exposing that puts me on Front Street and can potentially really embarrass me. I'm going to go ahead and hit it right now. Oh! Journey, Separate Ways. I actually really like this song. Thank you again for coming listening to the Grit Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Sky Osborne. I am back this week with Leah Graham. This is episode 26. Why can't white people talk about black movies? That's going to be the gist of the conversation. You can follow the Grip Podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, Stitcher. And if it's not on the service that you use, DM me and I'll see what I can do. You can follow us on Instagram at The Grip Podcast, on Facebook at The Grip Podcast, on Twitter at Matthew Sky Oz, O-Z. Don't have a Twitter account for the podcast, just using my personal-ish profile. You can get your Be Humane wristbands. I'm wearing them right now on my wrist. Hashtag Be Humane. I've been preaching that for a while. The whole point of the wristband is to be a conversation starter. You're wearing it. Somebody says, hey, what's that? And you say, glad you asked. This is my Be Humane wristband, which stands for whatever your Be Humane issue is. Civil rights, gay rights, global warming, transgender rights. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be one thing. It can be a number of things. Again, just meant to be a conversation starter. Funny story real quick. My dentist asked me what it was, and I didn't tell him because I didn't want... You ever heard that saying, don't shit where you eat? Not so much shitting, but, I was like, wow, I don't know. What if she's like a super hardcore, crazy Fox News Republican, and then I go off and say that shit about, we talk about white supremacy and racism, and then, she's cleaning my teeth, and then she, just, slices one of my gums, and I start bleeding out, and I die. That's a little extreme, but I didn't really tell her. I just said, just be humane. Golden rule. Please subscribe, share the podcast on your social media. Please do that. We want to grow the podcast, and like I said, I'm going to start here shortly working on giveaways for sharing the podcast and rating us on iTunes. That should be it. We're going to call Leah here in a second. I'm going to let this journey rock for just a few more seconds.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. Can I please speak with Leah Graham?
This is she.
Hey! What's up?
Not much. Just been trying to get this video camera going.
Oh, you got it going.
I think so. We'll see. Not promising anything.
Awesome. I guess
Trial
for
run.
those of you who don't know, sent Leah a camera because I know I'm this amazing, beautiful guy, and everybody loves to look at me. But I also wanted to share the stage with Leah.
So generous of you.
Yeah, so I like.
You may not think that after you see this first video. We'll see.
Ooh.
You may revoke my rights.
No, I don't think so. You're mixed, Leah. You're beautiful.
Oh my gosh, stop it. No matter the quality of the video, you're mixed, and that's all we need.
That's all we need. You're just a mixed, beautiful baby-ish lady, grown-up person, whatever.
Oh my God.
I don't know where I was going with that.
So bad.
Yeah,
Oh
so I got tired of just having that black and white photo of you up there, like in the corner. Like, I'm on the phone with this person. Yeah, so I want to give him you. I want to share the stage.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How's your day been?
My day's been super busy, actually. That's why I'm a little bit behind schedule here. I spent the afternoon with the actors for that thing I'm shooting next weekend, and like we were really like getting into it, and I didn't want to stop because we haven't had like a whole lot of time to rehearse and talk about the script. So they're asking me all this other stuff that's not in the script, and where the nuance is, and what are the things that they're not saying, and where's he coming from, and where's she coming from, and I don't want to give too much away for people who are listening. But like the stuff we talk about, like people don't really say what they mean a lot of the time, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And what's
is this
behind?
The script that I helped.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize we were there already.
We are filming next Saturday.
Wow.
Yes, and
That's exciting.
Yeah, they were asking a lot of important questions, and I was just really impressed. And I was like, I mean, not that I thought they weren't going to do well. I was just like, wow, you guys are like really asking me. They're like, so what does he feel about himself? And does he think of himself as this kind of black person or this kind of black person? And she's like, well, what about her? Is she this kind of white person, this white person? Where is she? I was like, whoa, you okay?
You're like, let me think about this for a second. give me 5 minutes.
It was cool because I'm doing that work, and me and you talked about it, when you worked on it, and then my wife and she worked on it, so we had those conversations.
Right.
And we were having the conversations with them today, but I wasn't bringing it up. They brought it up.
Yeah, they're really working hard to get into character and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's what I did this morning or afternoon-ish.
Gotcha.
Yeah. What are you doing?
How am I doing, or what am I doing?
What are you doing? What's happening right now? What's going on in your world? Tell me something.
Yeah.
Any hot dates?
I'm taking a break from dating. It's stupid.
Dating's stupid.
It is.
Oh.
My latest. Yeah, I don't even know if I want to go into it, but he was like super into me and said all these things, not like schmoozing me, but I mean, it seemed genuine. Like he thought I was just awesome and had all these experiences he wanted to hear about, and like overseas and all that stuff. And then he was like, well, I definitely want to see you again. And I mean, it was just the first date, but still it seemed like we were off to a good start. And then he like totally canceled the next 2 times we were supposed to hang out for like no good reason. He's like, oh, I'm going to my aunt's house. Like the night we had plans. Yeah. Are you free another day? And I'm like, I don't have time for this.
Bullshit.
Yeah. I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. Like things don't add up, and it doesn't make sense. And he actually seemed like the first fairly normal like guy I'd gone out with in a while. So I was kind of excited. So I don't know. I'm just kind of over it. Something's not working, so I'm just gonna chill for a little bit.
I mean, that's good. It's all right. It is what it is. Do what you do.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Nothing too exciting on that front.
Okay.
No more manicure stories. Yeah, nothing like that to analyze.
That's foul.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, super foul. I think I'm gonna name. I don't remember what your note said. But I kind of want to name this episode, Why Can't White People Talk About Black Movies? And I know that's not like
that
what
title come from.
I'll tell you here in a second, but like,
okay.
I don't
That's not going to be the whole episode. That's not going to be like the gist of it. But I just think that's funny. Funny title, because I've been having those conversations, and I was going through your list, and I was like, because I think you were talking about representation,
right,
in there, and I think this all falls in together because this has been happening to me a lot lately, like just this week and then the last few weeks, and it's been going on for a while. I've been having this conversation with a lot of white people, and so I really want to talk about it.
Okay, cool. I'm game.
Okay. You want me to start, or you got some things on your mind?
No, you start us.
Okay, so how do I start this? So I guess I'll just start by saying, like Black Panther, Get Out, Us, that just came out. Have you seen any of those?
I've seen the first two. I have not seen Us yet.
You seen Black Panther and Get Out? Okay.
Yes.
And those are obviously a really big deal.
Yes.
And there was a lot of hype and excitement around these movies for obvious reasons. After some of the hype kind of died down, I started having these funny conversations with Black and white people about these movies.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, okay, so I'll put myself on blast here. I thought Black Panther was a good movie. Was it? I guess I got to separate how I talk about this because I'm going to get myself in trouble. Because I did having these conversations. I
got myself in trouble over Black Panther too, probably for different reasons than you did. So
yeah.
I'll let you confess first, and then I'll confess how I got in trouble.
So there's the movie itself, and then there's what the movie represents.
Right.
There's two different conversations happening, and I saw a lot of like intersectionality, with those topics, I guess. And for more information on what that means, go to episode 17.
Just trying to randomly throw phrases in there.
Right. So there's two different conversations.
Why don't you, break down a little bit. Can you break down for us what you mean by that? Okay.
So there's just the movie itself. How was it put together? Did the actors do a good job? Did it make sense? Was there a good story? Was there a good plot? How did it make you feel? Right. There's that conversation, like with any movie that you have. Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? What parts of the movie did you like? Then there's the conversations about what the movie represented for like African Americans, right? An all black cast and a black director and a black superhero. And these are things that we haven't seen in cinema before. So it's like groundbreaking. Right. And it's hard to, it seemed like it was difficult to have those two conversations because everybody was making it one conversation.
Like combining those two elements. The two.
Because like if you were to say you didn't really enjoy the movie, then you're also saying you don't support black movies. Right. And you're like, no. That's not what I'm saying, because that was the issue I got into. Like, I thought it was a good movie, but I didn't think it's not the best movie I've ever seen.
As far as the message?
No, just the movie in itself. Like,
oh, okay. How it was made.
The plot.
Like the technical. Oh, okay.
Like, they're like the villain and how they interact with the villain and were there too many villains and.
Okay. See, you're a big like comic book guy, so I think you probably notice things that maybe other people don't notice.
Yeah, like would the actor or would the character do this thing, and Black Panther behaves this way, and there's that stuff. So people were having two different conversations, and it was very hard to separate the two.
That makes sense.
And so I had a lot of white people talk to me, and it's weird. They would talk to me, and they would only say it to me as far as I'm aware because they felt like it was safe to say it to me. Because I know how to talk to people, white or black, regardless. I just know how to talk to people. And so they would be like, in not so many words, Matt, I'm afraid to say I didn't really enjoy the movie because I don't want to be looked at as a racist.
Sure.
And I'm like, I get that, because if I come out and say I'm not a huge fan of Black Panther, then I'm kind of looked at like, oh, you kind of like Uncle Tom, or you're a traitor. And I'm like, yo, that is an extreme. Like, what are you? No.
Were people really going to that degree though?
Yes.
Wow,
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. I'm a real social person in a lot of social circles, and so I'm having a lot of conversations with people throughout life about a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it was the same with let me go back to Black Panther. Like, the line in Black Panther where Killmonger, the villain, says, go ahead and kill me because I know that death is better than bondage.
Yeah.
Okay, that was insane. Like,
yeah,
I can't believe you put that in a comic book movie.
Right. That was a really powerful moment.
That blew my mind. I was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
So it was magnificent with things like that. And like when the one sister calls the white guy, "What are you doing here, colonizer?" I was like, whoa. Did she just say that?
I was just thinking of that phrase. Yeah.
So it was like magnificent in doing those things and having like the heroes, and maybe it wasn't Compton. That's Los Angeles, somewhere in New York, Queens. I don't know. A lot of powerful imagery and lines and things like that. So it's difficult to separate that from the movie and the impact and all that. And so I saw this also with like Get Out.
Okay.
I thought Get Out was a good movie. I enjoyed the movie. I had no problems with the movie, but I wasn't tripping over myself to praise the movie.
Okay.
I was like, it was a good movie. It talked about interesting things. I like the references. I get the tone and all these other things, but it was cool.
Yeah. But not like mind blowing.
It wasn't mind blowing. Like maybe it was in the fact that, you don't see a lot of dark, actors. Like they always have like a high, like brown or light brown person, black person. They never have like a dark black person.
Right.
And I think Jordan Peele actually talks about that, about casting all of his roles with like really dark skinned black people, because they're not represented. It's always, as I've heard, high yellow,
right.
Light brown,
right.
black people, not the chocolate people, as I say. I can say that. You can't say that. Like my chocolate black people, So you don't see that in Hollywood, It's like I think like Lupita Nyong'o, like beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that skin color, I think that dark skin like that is just beautiful. It's just beautiful to me. So I know I'm rambling just a little bit here, but it's just, if you don't praise the movie, then you kind of get looked at funny, because the movies are doing something in society that's powerful.
Sure.
But then you also have just the movie, and how was the movie?
Right.
Not so much what the movie represents.
Well, and I guess for my end, like, I'm probably not nearly as strong on the like technical aspects of things, like evaluating and analyzing, like the quality of the movie from that standpoint. I mean, if it's like really bad, obviously I know, but as far as like the more nuanced analysis of the technical quality, that's definitely not my strong point. But I'm always looking at, like the message and the nuances of the messages that they're getting across. For instance, like in Get Out, I remember there was a part, it's been so long since I've seen that movie, but it was like towards the end of the movie where they're having like a big party in their backyard or something.
Yeah.
But there's an Asian man who is like makes an appearance. I don't think he was anywhere else in the movie. And he is definitely parroting the things that like the white folks are saying. I mean, you can definitely tell that he's kind of being cast as on that side of things.
Right.
And, so it's stuff like that are these like subtle, to me, that was like kind of showing how a lot of times Asian Americans and even Latinx folks and other non-Black communities of color have a lot of anti-Blackness within their communities as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like elements like those that I'm usually more like tuned into and trying to pick apart. And I mean, as far as Black Panther, you know, I don't have any sort of like comic book background at all. But this movie had been so hyped. And I mean, I'll be honest, when I got to the end of that movie, I was like mad. I was like in the theater. I'm probably
What
gonna
made
get
you
in trouble
mad?
for saying this. I was so mad. I was like, are you kidding me? Is that really the end? Like, you have got to be kidding me. But I was kind of going in there thinking that I had these expectations that the movie was not just going to be like mind-blowing as far as the representation, you know, the representation of Black folks and of Africa, and not like Africa as, you know, like starving kids, and Africa as like as a powerful, I mean, you know, like an African country, right? Wakanda as this powerful entity with valuable resources, because that's what the continent is,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so, but beyond that, I was expecting that there was going to be also this like hard-hitting message, like kind of how Get Out addressed, you know, like interracial relationships, obviously in a very interesting way, right? But I was expecting that of Black Panther. And so from my initial viewing of the movie, I felt like I've since kind of changed my perspective some, but I felt like they killed off the revolutionary Killmonger, right? Like demonized him as just this crazy person with these insane ideas.
Killmonger made a lot of good points.
Right. I felt like Killmonger was not that far off. I was probably team Killmonger more than I was team
Right?
anybody else. And so the fact that they like demonized him and made him just kind of like seem, yeah, like crazy, and he was radical. I get that. I'm pretty radical too. So maybe that's why I liked him. And then kind of at the very end of the movie, so they kill the revolutionary Killmonger, kill him off, demonize him, and then at the very end, it's kind of like the solution to these issues is to open this, what was it, like a nonprofit like community center or like an educational center, I can't remember exactly what it was, at the very end, right, to open that center in again, I don't even remember what city it was. And I was like, that's the solution to like all of these issues, is to freaking open like a nonprofit? Not that that can't do some good, but like, how is that supposed to solve the, like, help with these like worldwide issues? So it felt like a very like safe, whitewashed, like palatable solution to all these issues that they brought up in the movie. Right. And insufficient. It felt like a very insufficient solution. And so I don't know. I was just like, what the hell did I just see?
And so I had those exact same conversations with people, and the thing that I guess you might not, like you said, you're not into the comics and all that. So like there's a lot more going on that I had to walk back and really think about, because if you've seen any Marvel movie, the fact that they got that stuff in the movie blew my mind.
Okay.
Because they don't do that. And the movie I wanted, I was never going to see. Like, they were never going to make the movie I wanted.
Right.
They were never going to make the Killmonger movie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of like the Killmonger movie is going to have Black Panther kind of as the villain, I would think. Because I'm like, yo, you guys were over here hiding safe in Wakanda while the rest of us were out here getting enslaved and going through civil rights and all this.
Right. And then you're going to demonize us. I mean, I say us, but like Black Americans. You're going to demonize Black Americans then for wanting to, like, for these kind of revolutionary, radical ideas. I just felt like I felt like that was kind of representative of how African Americans are seen and treated by Blacks in the diaspora often.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't understand, you seem too radical, like, why are you so angry? I'm not saying everyone feels that way, but I think a lot of times from my experiences with Africans who migrate to the States, or Haitians, or, you know, people from the diaspora, there isn't a lot of understanding. I mean, I guess in the same way that Black folks from the U.S. would immigrate to one of those countries and maybe not understand the context, you know, of the people in those countries. I mean,
Right.
I'm not saying it only works one way, but yeah, I think that was another part that really upset me. Like, one more movie that's like demonizing Black Americans, which happens in reality, but that part I wasn't in love with either.
Yeah, so if you know anything about the director Ryan Coogler, he's this young black guy, maybe like in his early 30s. He
Okay.
did Fruitvale Station. I don't know if you've seen that. And
I know what you're
Creed.
talking Oscar. I can't think of his last name. I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so Ryan Coogler's this really good director, and he tackles black issues very well.
Okay.
And so when we heard he was doing Black Panther, we like lost our minds. We were like, "Holy shit! Like,
Right.
this is going to be incredible." And then you start
Right.
hearing all the hype,
Right.
right? And then you go see the
And you
movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't want to say it didn't live up to the hype, because again, I had to walk back a lot of my early opinions, because to get that stuff in a Marvel movie is insane.
Yeah.
I don't know
That makes
how
sense.
he was able to put that stuff in the movie and
Right.
made all the references, you know, that he made, and the nuances, all that stuff. Like, so it was a feat that he even got that stuff in the movie. And so
That makes sense.
I was like, hats off to you, man. I don't know how you went to this huge corporate monster and still, you know, made some of the
Did what
points
you
you
did.
made.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I don't want to take anything away from that. And what he did was an amazing feat. But the point I'm kind of trying to make with these movies like Black Panther or Get Out or Us, and I just saw Us this past week, and I saw it and I was like, it was cool. You know? And a couple of my black friends were like, "Oh, like, come on, Matt." I was like, it was cool. You know what I mean? Like, it was cool. Like, it was good. It was a good movie. It was solid. It was a good movie. I mean, I'm not calling home about it. Like, yo, go see Us. I'm like, it was good.
Yeah.
And like, that was it. And like, some of my white friends who saw it said kind of the same thing to me about like Black Panther and Get Out. They were like, I don't want to say that I didn't really like it a whole lot. Like, I enjoyed it, but I don't want to say anything negative about it because I don't want to be looked at as that guy.
Yeah.
Or that girl. And so, go ahead.
Well, but I think, and I'm sure you were getting to this point if I hadn't interrupted you. Sorry.
No.
But I think kind of what one of my friends actually kind of gently checked me because I was like posting all this stuff about the Black Panther, like not like totally bashing it, but you know, there were all these think pieces analyzing the message portion of it. And so I was posting all these critiques and stuff, and he was like, "Hey, I don't think you get it." And I was like, "Okay." This is a black male friend. He was
Yeah.
like, "I don't think you get it." And I was like, "Okay, what don't I get?" And he was basically hitting on the representation part, you know, the fact that it's a movie with all of these black folks who are shown as strong and powerful and
Right, not drug
you
dealers,
know,
not gangsters, not
right,
anything
exactly.
negative at all.
Exactly. And like we've talked about before, so many like dark-skinned black folks, and then all of the different you know, cultural elements that it was kind of a mishmash, which kind of like messed with my head a little bit too. But regardless, like all the different elements from various African cultures, you know, as far as the costuming and the the markings and the scarification and all the jewelry, all those things that that they did. And he was basically saying, like, you don't understand how big those things, those elements are for Black Americans or Black folks worldwide, maybe. And so after that, I was like, okay, he's right. Like, I don't want to be the person, the killjoy. I'm not Black. Like, I don't want to be, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
This is like, people are celebrating, for the most part, this movie and the good things that it is doing and that it was able to accomplish. And I don't want to be the non-Black person that's like, but the message sucked. So I was just kind of like, okay, let me just back off a little bit and let people enjoy it and have their moment. And then if I feel the need to, post stuff later, let me just like back off for a little bit. So
that's kind of the point that I'm getting to is, so talking with some of my white friends and Black friends, the representation. So I said this to one of my friends. I was like, you can come out, a white friend. I'm like, you can come out and say anything you want about Lil Wayne or Drake or Will Smith about their latest album, right? You can come out and offer your opinion, and I would imagine there's not going to be a real strong reaction to that from anyone.
Right.
Okay. Why is that? Because the market's flooded with it. You can find hip hop artists in your neighborhood. Okay. Right. They're everywhere. Hip hop is flooded. Okay. With Black artists and Black people and Black singers and all of that. That is not the case for film.
With these types of movies. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, this representation is so important, why these topics are so sensitive.
Sure.
Because there's not, like, you can count maybe the Black directors on one hand, and I have this conversation a lot with my wife where I'm like, it's almost like they allow so many Black actors at one time. Like, you only get Denzel.
Right, like one. We've reached our maximum.
Right. You get Denzel.
Black actors for this film.
You get Michael B. Jordan. You get Chadwick, but you only get a few.
Right.
But you can just rattle off white male actors, white female actors. It's just a shitload of them.
Right.
Right. But not the case for Black actors and directors, right?
Right.
So you can't. The representation's not there. Yeah. Right? You want to say something?
I've read articles and stuff about, not just for Black actors, but for Asian actors and,
absolutely,
other people of color as well. But the same kind of thing that happens with resumes and stuff, where it's like they're getting turned down. I remember reading articles about actors and actresses who have like changed their last names or their whole name to make it sound more Americanized because they, were getting turned down for parts because of their names were giving away that they weren't white, and they were just immediately being turned down. So yeah, it's like the same issues that happen in the workforce and other areas of society, are happening in film and Hollywood and all of that too, and maybe even more so. Maybe even to a higher degree. I don't know.
And so I'm saying to some of my people, I'm like, my friends, I'm like, my white friends, I'm like, stereotypes drive, public opinion about people for the most part, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, so like stereotypes drive your people's opinion about almost anything. Black people, Asian people,
right.
You
we want
name
to
it.
think that media doesn't influence that, but it does hugely.
Yeah, where's that coming
like
from?
It's fact. Like
Okay.
I mean, that's another one of those like non-debatable things.
Yeah, you're getting it from your movies, your TV
Right.
shows,
Exactly.
your music or whatever it is. And so
Like how else would you have people who have never in person encountered people from this particular racial group who have these deeply ingrained ideas of who those people are? It has to be
exactly.
from media, right?
Yeah. And do you know who Kamal Bell is? I believe his name is Kamal Bell.
That name is so
Uh
familiar.
Black, I think he's a comedian. He had the show on CNN for a while. W. Kamal Bell. Um,
Yeah, yes.
really,
I know who you're talking about.
really interesting guy. He was just on this podcast, I think called This American Life, and
Okay.
he was telling this quick story about how he's married to a white woman, and
Okay.
he's got mixed kids, and his wife was at lunch with a bunch of her white friends and his kids, and he showed up late. And he walked up to the table. They're all sitting outside on the sidewalk. And he says, as soon as he walked up to the table, a waitress from inside the restaurant started beating on the window and shooing him away.
Wow.
And like, get out of here. Don't stop harassing these women.
Yeah.
Are you trying to sell them something? Like, get out of here. Long story short, they ended up coming out, and he's like, yo, I'm her husband, and these are my kids.
Right.
And there was a big thing, and there was an apology, and she got fired, and the community had this meeting and all this other stuff. But I bring up that story to point out how important representation is. If I don't know where that like waitress got her information from,
Right.
but it was nowhere intelligent.
Right.
Or it was a bad stereotype, because why would you
Right.
do that? Why are you
Right, 'cause it's
shooing away black people?
Right. Who
Right.
just walked up to sit down.
So I was telling a couple of my white friends, I'm like, this is why the Cosby Show, was such a big deal outside of it being just a really good show. It made
Right.
black people look normal.
Right. Like a happy, healthy family with two parents and the kids, and kind of going against a lot of the stereotypes of what black families look like.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's why it was so important. It made us look normal, and it drives public opinion about who we are. That's why we care about this so much. That's why we're so
Right.
excited about Black Panther. That's why we're so excited about
Yeah.
Get Out and
Right.
Us.
Yeah.
We need that. That could literally save our life. Like if there's a cop out there
Right.
who's seen these movies
real.
and they don't think so negative of us, they won't be so jumpy when they pull us over.
Right.
Or a neighbor, or it could be anybody. These things help form public opinion about us.
Yeah. Well, and I think also, I mean, everything you said is like so true. I mean, literally what you said about this could save black folks' lives. I mean, if those alternate images and narratives, especially if those were to pick up right in media,
Yeah.
right in news stories and movies, that sort of thing. But I think another thing I keep thinking about too is blackness being centered, black folks, black stories, right? It's not like, because we have all these movies that have black folks in them or that are about black people, but then there's the white savior character that is really the character that's centered in the movie, right?
Right.
That's what I was hearing about. What's that movie that just came out? Is it called The Green Book?
Oh, the Green Book.
that
A
right?
lot of controversy around that.
Yeah, again, another one I haven't seen yet.
I haven't seen it
but
either.
Almost all the commentary I've heard is like, and especially people that know, because it's based on a true story, right?
Yeah,
That,
I don't
like,
think the
know
family
story.
approved of it.
Right, because they were saying, here's the actual story of, I think, the man who was the driver or the chauffeur or something
Yeah.
in the movie, and they were like, this is what should have been centered. There's plenty here. He should have been the main character, but instead it was like more focused on one of the white characters, like overly focused on the white characters. And so I think that was another thing that was super powerful and different, and about like Black Panther, right? It's
Right.
like Black folks aren't the sidekick.
Right.
They're not like the sub characters. They are like the main characters. They are driving the story, which I still think is rare these days for movies. Yeah.
So yeah, so tell me what you think about this. So I was having this conversation with my wife, talking about, you think about just white movies, okay? Like Die Hard, I don't know, My Best Friend's Wedding, just these movies you've maybe seen or heard of just throughout your life, right? Where they're just
Right.
predominantly white cast movies. Black people, Asian people, we don't have these movies, right? The market's
Right.
not flooded with movies about us,
Sure.
right? And so when you get like these movies like Get Out or Black Panther or Us, or you have like a few black actors in Hollywood, when it's so limited, I hate to say this, but you start asking yourself, are they really that good? Are we overhyping these things?
Are the movies really that
Are
good?
the movies that good? Are the actors
Okay.
that good? Are there better actors? Are there better movies? We don't know because we don't get to see them. They're not represented. Okay?
Gotcha.
Because I got to wonder, if the market's flooded with black movies, is Get Out such a big deal?
Right.
Is Us such a big deal? Is black? It's not. They're not.
Yeah.
They're a big deal mainly because we're not represented.
Sure.
So I have these conversations all the time with my wife about things like this, where I was kind of touching on it earlier. I love Denzel Washington, for example. Like, he's a great actor. How do we know there's not 10 more of him?
Right.
20 more of him?
Yeah.
But we got a shitload of DiCaprios and De Niro's and Pacinos and Matt Damon
I'm sure
and
there
Ben
are
Affleck. You know what I
10
mean?
or 20 or 30 or 1,000 more Denzels. I mean, I think so much of this goes back to, I mean, you could look at this in any area, really. You could look
Absolutely.
at science. You could people who are scientists. You could look at people who are professors. I mean, it's like when you look around the world and see who has an opportunity to have access to education or have access to go to college or go to grad school. I mean, there are people all around the world, right, who are brilliant, like in all these countries in Africa, in South America, in all parts of Asia, right? Like, we know that there are brilliant, talented people like all around the world, or I know that. I hope people know that, right?
Yeah.
But it's some people have access, and I mean, it even goes back before even education. Like, who has access to good food while you're developing as a child?
Right.
Healthy food, adequate nutrition, adequate health care. So it's like, I mean, I have no doubt that there are 1,000 Denzel Washingtons and 1,000 neurosurgeons and 1,000, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
teachers of the year, and people that have that potential, children, young adults that have that potential, but don't have access to the same everything I just mentioned, right? That other folks do. And so I'm positive that that's the case in the world of acting. I know that it is.
Yeah, and
right?
I've had white people say to me, okay, so if you guys become a bigger part of the marketplace, they're going to pander to you the way they pander to us. They'll do that, like, it could be anything. It could be like a rock and roll movie where they're pander to white rock people or whatever. They'll pander black movies to black people. It's just all the bullshit marketing things that they do. And I'm like, cool. We haven't really experienced that or a whole lot of that. Like, you get some of that Medea movies. I can't stand those movies. The Tyler Perry movies. I'm just not a fan.
You're not the first black person. I know a lot of white folks who like those. You're not the first black person who said
it's
that
like
to me.
making fun of us.
Right.
With us,
and
it's just weird.
Playing on the stereotypes, right?
It's not helping, I don't think,
Yeah.
But so they'll make the point like, well, they're going to pander to you and they're going to do all this, and I'm like, yo, that's fine. It's not okay, but you take the pandering for granted because you've been pandered to. We haven't had the opportunity to be pandered to. This is the point I'm making.
And then let us choose be critical of what we like and what we don't like, and then it'll get even better, right? Right. There'll be more competition, all of that.
Exactly. So I'm like, that's kind of the point I'm making, and that's why these topics are so sensitive. So let me ask you this. This was kind of the last, because I wanted to get through these real quick so we could talk about, these things as we touch on the topics. So I kind of see this thing with white people, and it's not exclusive, like you said, to entertainment. But it's this like thinking where they're like, can we just get along? Why
that
can't,
drives me crazy.
Like, why
I
can't,
hate when people say that?
Like, why can't we get along? Or I don't see color. You've heard that one. Or all lives matter, but not in like, I'm not saying these things in the aggressive way, how we talked about how some white people use them as a way to actually deflect from the topic. I'm talking about this in a more innocent way where they're like, I don't understand the problem. Why can't we just get along? Why can't we just fix it?
Yeah.
Them coming from that approach. So I hear that a lot. And it's funny to me when I hear that because I don't really get a lot of opportunity to talk to them about what they're actually saying, where I'm like, that's like wanting the results of the workout without the workout.
Right.
Like you're just sitting there like, yo, I want to be fit and buff.
Yeah.
Saying it doesn't make it so.
Yeah.
What do you got to do? You got to exercise. You got to work out. You got to sweat. You got to go through some pain.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that. I guess I do know why that doesn't connect, but I don't know why.
Why is that mind-blowing?
Yeah. Like, why can't we just work this out? Why can't we just get along? Why I don't see color or these like really lazy kind of responses. And I don't think it's intentional with some white people. I think it is with others, but I can't like apply this monolithic thinking to all white people. There's different layers to this.
Well, I think. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's kind of the gist of it.
I mean, I think it is. Well, first of all, wait a minute. First of all, let me ask you how are you connecting this with the racial representation, or is this just something that was on your mind?
Well, it's so with the movies and the entertainment. It's like, why can't we just judge movies as they are? Why
does it have to be a black movie?
Why does it have to be why is all this other stuff going on? Why can't it just be this? I'm like, yo, that would be great.
Right.
If it was just that.
Okay, I got you.
But in order to get there, we got to go through. We have to. Yeah. We have to go through all this other stuff.
I mean, there are a lot of things that irritate me around racism. I'm sure you picked up already. Yeah. But that one is one of the big ones. Like, why can't we just get along? Because it just, I feel like not only is it lazy, it's so, it's either ignorant or it's very disingenuous. Like, for someone to say that, they're either ignorant about the history, like truly don't understand the history and don't of racism in this country and truly don't understand it, or there's this laziness, like lack of genuineness, right? It's like a whiny, if they do understand at least some of the racial history and why we are where we are today, then I feel like it's asking a question that why would you ask that if you know the answer? Then it just feels like whining to me, like kind of the whiny version of why can't we just move on And why can't we just get over this? Or why can't black folks get over it?
Yeah.
Right? It kind of hits me as the little bit less abrasive version of that. And I get it. For some people, for some white folks, I think that question is genuine. They truly don't have, if they're associating racism with only slavery, which is how the narrative has been crafted in this country. And I think what a lot of white folks think, right? That's why you get the slavery was so long ago. Why can't we move past that? As if that was the only manifestation of white supremacy, right? So when people are correlating those two things, racism with slavery, I mean, that's false information, right? There's so many other ways that racism manifests. And so, it just frustrates me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a different approach to it. Like, I feel like there's a way to approach that. And maybe that's what these people are trying to ask. But I feel like there's a better way to approach that instead of like the whiny, why can't we all just get along? Because what that's doing, I feel like, is that centering whiteness. That's centering white people and centering their desire to not have to put the work in, right? Like you said, It's laziness. Instead of saying, this seems to really be not going away. Can you help me understand why that is? Or can you help me understand why this pain is so deep? Or I don't know. I feel like the approach is just funky.
And then I feel with some of it, the thinking is, this is awkward and uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Right? And I'm like, okay, I see you're awkward and uncomfortable, and I raise you
right?
being black all day.
Right.
Being a minority all day. I can't take this off.
Right.
I live here. Right.
So your comfort in not having to have hard conversations and rethink what you've been taught is more important than the suffering. It is harder than the suffering that people of color, and especially black folks and indigenous folks, have gone through in this country. I mean, I think that's why it irritates me.
It doesn't
so
hold a candle to it. So I'm like, I'm sorry you're uncomfortable. I'm not, but I know you're uncomfortable and awkward, but like, get in the game.
Get over it. I mean, that's kind of what I just want to be like, I get that. I'm sorry, but get over it. Like, put on your big boy girl panties. You know what I'm saying? Because
we got some work to do.
Yeah. And I mean, especially when you and your ancestors and your people are the ones that have perpetuated this whole thing, and upheld this, then it hits in an even worse way.
Yeah.
Right. Because I guess how I see that on a micro level, right, is like if you have something that happens between two people where one person really hurts the other person, and then that first person is like, why can't we just move on? Why is this such a big deal? I said sorry, can't you get over it? It's like, that's not your place to say that. That is not your place to ask that. That is not your place to expect that. That is not your place to say that. Your place is to take a very different approach than that. To try to make things right and to try to understand how you hurt that other person and why they feel the way they do. And I feel like for so many white folks, it's more of that, just like, this is uncomfortable for me and I don't really care. I mean, at least that's how it comes across sometimes. I don't really care what you've been through or what you are going through. I care about me and my comfort and how I feel, which is uncomfortable. And so I just want this to be over. And I get that. That's a human thing. No human being likes to be in uncomfortable situations. But
the only difference is we can't escape that.
Yeah. And as adults, like, we have to fight through that. I mean, it was uncomfortable. This is just me being completely vulnerable. I was intimidated and like uncomfortable going into my grad program. I knew that there was a ton that I didn't know about the experiences of Black Americans. I'd said shitty things to Black friends before, and they'd gotten super angry, and I was worried. You know, like, I knew I had the capacity, and I still do today, this very moment, March 30th, 2019, right?
Mm-hmm.
To say things to Black folks or anybody who's in a community, folks that have disabilities, or folks that are in the LGBTQIA community, right? Like, I still have the potential to say things that are racist or homophobic, or, you know, not meaning to, but
Mm-hmm.
I haven't arrived at any certain place of all-knowing understanding, right? And so I just feel like there are some people that can recognize that the journey to racial understanding or racial reconciliation or more peace, or, you know, it's going to require work. It's going to require being uncomfortable. It's not going to be easy, but if you really prioritize what you say that you prioritize, then you'll push through the discomfort, right?
Yeah.
You know, but I feel like for so many people, they don't really care that much about racial reconciliation or all of us getting along, or they would be willing to put the work in. Mm-hmm. And deal with the discomfort. I feel like that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
Like, you can say whatever you want to say that you really, really want this, but I think how much you really want that shows in, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When those hard moments are there, are you going to stick with this? Sorry, I kind of got off on my soapbox.
It's all related. It's definitely all related. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, to answer the question I posed at the beginning, why can't white people talk about Black movies? There's so many ways to answer that, because there's not so many of them. You can talk about them, but you got to do it in a understanding way.
Right.
You got to understand what's all playing into that.
Right. Yeah.
And
this isn't just another random movie that we can just critically analyze without being aware of what this movie is doing and the ground that it's groundbreaking, I guess.
You know what? Check this out. The fact that I've had white people say that to me literally is evidence of how fucked up everything is.
That they've said to you, why can't we talk about this movie?
Yes,
and not
the fact
get in trouble for it?
that they've said that to me is like, I can't talk about this because I don't want to be looked at as, you know, a racist. The fact that they're even saying that is evidence enough of how fucked up the situation is.
Yeah.
In the United States. Like, yo, you can't honestly talk about a damn movie. That's how bad this is.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We can't talk about a movie. That's how bad this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's nuts. And so it's funny. It's like the evidence is right there in the statement.
Right. But then these are the same folks that might turn around and be like, why can't we just get along, right? Why can't we all just get along?
All right,
like, oversimplifying it.
You know what? Go ahead and say what you want to say about that Black movie.
Yeah.
Go ahead, let it rip. Let's see how this one plays out.
You know, as I was thinking about this whole racial representation topic, I thought about a commercial.
Oh, Cheerios.
Dang it, Matt. Why you do this to me? Yes.
Is that the
Cheerios
one?
Commercial. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly the one with the mixed family, right? There was, I think, a black dad and a white mom and a little mixed child. And it like blew up. Like, people lost their minds over this, 30-second commercial, 45-second commercial. And, you know, I mean, I think that's just more evidence of how screwed up this country is, but also goes to show that, like, people still have weird feelings around, which you and I, you know, we know this isn't shocking, but around interracial families and mixed kids and, you know, that a movie, or I'm sorry, a short commercial depicting a mixed family is just like making people lose their minds, because you don't see that a whole lot. And I was actually thinking, I don't know if I've ever seen myself ever represented in film or on a TV show or in a movie as a mixed race person.
Yeah, like
I've
you want to tell
seen-
me Jackie Chan and Jet Li are the only Asian, actors out there?
Right.
Are you kidding me?
I definitely very much identify as Chinese and as Asian American, but I very heavily identify as a mixed person, which, I had to learn that terminology holds different weight in Black communities than it does in other communities.
Yeah.
Right. Because
true.
I would get pushback from Black folks for identifying as mixed. Like, I'd get the side eye. And so I had to learn the dynamics of mixedness and people claiming mixedness. That means something different in Black communities than it does in other communities. But for me, as I've talked about on other podcasts, I grew up with a white supremacist father, a father who came out in support of the KKK, right? So obviously, me being mixed and growing up with parents who were in an interracial relationship, that's a different kind of upbringing than somebody with two Chinese parents. That weighed hugely into who I am and into my experiences. And so, I was thinking about how few, you have a lot of mixed race actors and actresses, but they rarely play mixed characters in movies. Right? Their characters aren't mixed. They're playing a Black character, even though they're mixed, or they're but I was realizing that a couple of my favorite movies are about feature mixed characters who are actually playing mixed actors who are actually playing mixed characters in the film. They're not my particular mix, but I think that resonates with me on some level, right? That oh my gosh, it's they're actually depicting, a character who has parents that are in an interracial relationship. And so that resonates with me. I was also thinking about this short film. I went to a film screening it was probably about a year ago. It was a very short film, probably 20 minutes. It was called Black Korea. And it was based on the story of a Black Korean woman who grew up on the south side of Chicago. And she was the writer and the director and all of that. And it was a super powerful experience. It was one of the most emotional films I've ever watched. Because and it wasn't because of the actual film. That was a part of it, but it was because this woman in the film, or the woman who wrote it, she had been abandoned. So her parents had met overseas. It was a Black father and a Korean mother. He was military. So they'd met, I guess when he was stationed in Korea, and come back to the south side of Chicago. Well, she ended up leaving him. I think there were some issues of alcoholism and domestic violence. So the mom left the husband, but she felt she knew she couldn't take the children back to Korea, because with them being mixed race and with them having Black heritage, she knew they would be stigmatized and bullied. And so that wasn't even an option for her to take the children with her back to Korea.
Yeah.
And she didn't know how to I don't think she knew how to make it in the US, right? She'd only been here a few years. And so she ends up abandoning the children with her ex-husband's mother. So these children, from the time they're young, are raised by their Black grandmother and these aunties, and on the south side of Chicago. And so felt very disconnected from their Korean side. And but the writer of this film in her adult years had found a group of Black Koreans on Facebook and started reconnecting with her Korean heritage. And there were a handful of Black Koreans in the audience that night. Like, they acknowledged them and had them stand up. And it was just like, I mean, you could feel the emotion in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, this wasn't even their story, these other Black Korean folks, although apparently this whole like abandonment by Korean mothers who married Black men is a thing, like that happens. But anyways, you could just feel the emotion. And I was just sitting there thinking, what must that be like for them to just have this short film portraying their particular mix? I'm pretty sure they've probably never seen that before on the big screen, or rarely. And so anyways, it was just something I was thinking about as a mixed person, because then it gets even more complicated, I think. Right?
Yeah,
like,
it's something white people take for granted.
Yeah.
It's that privilege. And then, because they're always kind of like, what are you talking about? I'm like, and I'm constantly giving examples. I'm like, yo, it doesn't even matter to you. That's what
Right.
we're talking about. It like, it's not even on your radar that all
Right.
your movies look like you.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know?
Movies and everything else, Santa and Jesus and
Right. Like, it's just normal to you. Like, it doesn't even register. It's so normal.
I had a little moment recently. I was at one of the museums in Chicago too. This doesn't have to do with the movie, but I saw this Lego set that was like depicting Chinese New Year with these little like Asian Legos. And obviously, like, I'm not into Legos now. I'm like 37 years old.
Yeah.
I played with them as a kid, but I kind of like freaked out for a minute. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like Asian Legos and it's like Chinese New Year in this Lego set. And literally for a moment thought about buying it.
Yeah.
For myself. I didn't. But I literally considered it briefly, because it was like, I've never seen that before and this is freaking awesome. So yeah, I just think, I don't know. I think the representation, and as we've talked about, the type of representation, right? That it's positive and not just feeding into these stereotypes is huge. And, we Asians kind of had, one of our groundbreaking films in Crazy Rich Asians that came out not too long ago too.
Yeah.
And I think that was huge for a lot of Asian folks for many of the same reasons, right? We weren't being cast as like just these like fresh off the boat, quote unquote. I don't mean that negatively at all, but folks who like don't speak English well and are just like super nerdy, or the sidekick, or doing kung fu, right? It was like a movie that depicted centered Asian folks and depicted us as just like living our lives,
just doing
right?
normal things that you do in real life.
Exactly. And also depicted kind of, I think in the US, so many folks, when they think of Asian, they're really thinking only of East Asian, right? Chinese, Korean, and Japanese. When really there's so many different Asian countries, and South Asian folks get left out all the time. I don't know that this movie covered all of that. I haven't actually seen it yet. I was going to watch it yesterday and I got distracted doing something else. But from the feedback that I got, it was like, actually depicting Asian folks as more than just Chinese, Japanese, or Korean, like as more diverse than that. And so I think, there was a lot of the same sense of like excitement and pride around what that movie was doing in a similar way that Black folks felt about, Black Panther or Get Out or those films. So I'm hopeful that there's more to come.
Yeah, I think it's slowly, obviously, getting somewhat better. Like I got like a crap load of black toys for my kid now. Like he's got like
Right.
black action figures and
Or books that
exactly
have black children in them that aren't about slavery or
right.
activism
It's
or
just a black kid playing with his teddy bear or something.
Right.
And there's even mixed kid books since he's mixed. So we've seeked those out and we have some of those and it's nice. And there's a new Spider-Man character. His name is Miles Morales. Miles is black and Hispanic, I believe. And
awesome.
he was who the last Spider-Man movie was about, the animated one that people are real excited about. So it's slowly evolving,
happening. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's better than nothing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I think, I was reading that Us is like opening weekend made more than any other horror film ever.
Yeah,
or
it's
something?
like the biggest horror movie opening ever.
Right, and Black Panther also did crazy well, right, in the box office.
Yeah.
So money talks, right? Like,
right.
There's going to be more coming because people are spending money on them. Like they're doing well.
So I
think that's enough reason to support it.
Yeah.
To support these films, even if doesn't hit your top 5 movies of all time list, at least supporting them means hopefully more will come along,
So I would say this to all my white people who want to talk shit about these movies, support them and they'll make a lot more. And the more there are, more shit you can talk.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
When they become as flooded in the market as white movies, then there'll be more leeway.
Oh my god.
But right now, keep your mouth shut.
Only positive things or nothing.
I want to ask you really quick about this movie on Netflix. It's I believe a mixed girl. It's called To All the Boys I Loved Before. My wife loves this movie, and if I get this wrong, I'm sorry, but something about the director when she wanted to, I guess, sell it. I can't remember if she tried to sell it to someone else, and they wanted to recast the girl as white. And she's like, no, she's like mixed, and I don't know what she's mixed with. I'm gonna get it wrong, so I'll just say Asian and something else. I think it was Asian and white. And she's like, no, it has to be the way I wrote it. It's got to be that way. And I think Netflix possibly just picked it up how it is.
Okay.
Or she won the fight with Netflix. I can't remember exactly what it is, and I should have researched it, but I just thought about it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
But it's a little cute, movie. Teenage love, teenage love.
That's funny. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's not bad. I watched it with her.
You're like, it's fine. It's fine.
It's
whatever.
Cute. It's cute.
I'll watch it with my wife because she wants me to.
Yeah, it's cute.
That's why I got so excited about that other Netflix. I know I just mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but about that show called Shadow.
Yeah, I wrote that down, or I added it to my list.
Yeah, because it's like it's showing South Africa in this very modern, light. Not, the African continent is so often depicted as like, starving kids and war and all that kind of stuff. And this is just showing kind of like everyday lives. I mean, it's not, there's also kind of like a superhero in it, but still, for the most part, it's just more like everyday lives of South Africans. Like if you went there and, so I'm excited. I think there's a lot going on in the film industry in a lot of different places, and I'm just excited to see what else comes out and how it keeps growing. So,
and I know I'm big into entertainment and all that, and that's why I like talking so much about these topics, but I really do think this obviously relates to the bigger picture.
I completely agree with you.
How I don't want to even say minorities because I don't think that's true, but how ethnic people are viewed, not just in the United States but throughout the world.
Around the world, yeah, because people internalize that. Whatever they're hearing, however they're seeing different folks being portrayed in media, people are internalizing that and believing that that's like reality, And so, I fully 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Super
So,
important.
yeah, I think we kind of got through it there quickly. Hopefully it wasn't too rushed and all over the place.
No, I think we're good.
Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of the gist of what I had. Like I said, I've been having these conversations with people a lot, and so I really want to come on here and kind of talk about it, and hopefully some of them are listening, and I'll get some feedback in person. And I'm like, yo, why'd you talk about me, Matt? I didn't use your name.
Why did you quote me? Verbatim. I know you were talking about me.
I'm like, no, I got lots of white friends, so I could be talking about any of y'all.
No. That wasn't about you, I promise.
If not, I could just make up a white friend. Bob. I'm just kidding. That's what Mikey said.
That was Bob in the office down the hall, not you.
Not you. Oh.
That's awesome.
Okay. So that was nice. That was kind of a light, episode. That wasn't too heavy, I don't think. So it's
I'm
nice.
I'm glad we had a little bit of a lighter one.
Yeah.
I had kind of a rough past couple weeks, so I'm like, let's do a lighter podcast.
Yeah.
I don't need to be up in my feelings any more than I already have been. So.
Well, when you get a second, I don't know if you ever go back and listen to these episodes. Listen to the song that came on, because like I said, I do that playlist shuffle every time. Listen to the song that came on this episode. It's pretty funny.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And I'm going to do it again here in a second.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Well, great talking to you as usual.
Yeah, and talk to you soon.
Okay, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. All right. There we go. Episode 26. Why can't white people talk about black movies or ethnic movies? I'm going to go ahead and send this out on another playlist shuffle. Thanks for listening. Share the episode. Please tell your friends and family about it. Go get your Be Humane wristbands. All that great stuff. I'm going to hit playlist shuffle. I'm kind of nervous, but here we go. This is a song. This is an instrumental track that I actually made a long time ago, and it's actually on the album I produced called My Sound, the Sky Sound.